Yeah, you caught me sticking my tongue out. How you doing? How's it going? Live on the 30th of March. Uh, which is 4 weeks since my first March video, which was on the 2nd of March. So my first video of March was one day in, and my last video of March is with one day to go. So penultimate day of March today. So how are we doing? It has been a weird week for me. And I'm going to try to get into some of that and hope it makes freaking sense. One thing today is it's supposed to get to 70 degrees, which means I hope I might take a long walk today for my exercise. I might walk a couple of miles. And just so you know, I've got a bit of concealer on because this is a combination of a razor cut. Plus, I think I caught some Velcro in the face the other night, and it kind of just rubbed it. I know last night I was scratching my upper lip, and all of a sudden I just felt like this tear where I tore the entire scab off, and I had blood all over my upper lip, which wasn't fun. So I hate that when I get that. I'll get these razor cuts like this where it'll rub the skin raw. And Jesus, and this leaves marks. So, but let's see. Job front, I went to a job fair down in Lancaster. I don't think it's going to do any good for me. To be quite honest, the job fair was kind of disorganized, I thought. And I don't think I was the sort of person they were looking for. So I don't imagine anything's going to happen with that. There's a job fair coming up this week at Alder Health Services that I'm going to. So I'm hoping, here's hoping that there's going to be something good come out of that. Though I'm still kind of planning on moving to Lancaster at some point. We'll see. But I paid off, I paid my rent. My back rent's covered. I have rent for April and May pretty much covered. I went to court on Thursday. I got a discharge. I even talked to the rental manager, and he was like, hey, cool, and I explained to him what had been going on. And he was like, oh shit, no kidding. I was like, yeah, it's been rough for me. So he asked that my case be discharged, which it was because I paid everything. And I'm receiving a letter today from the court, which I imagine is going to be, your case was discharged. Here you go. All fees and everything have been paid. So at least that's what I hope. I hope it isn't going to be like you still owe $100. But yeah, it's been discharged. And I explained to the rental agent, I said I should have the next couple of months covered. June, we'll play it by ear. So, but still, if you want to kick in some money to help a struggling girl out, I've gotten into the process of actually applying for Social Security. And then this week, I got to see about getting plates for my car because my plates will be due at the end of April. They're due in a month. So, although I may do something stupid like drive back to Indiana and do that, but I don't want to. I want to get everything set up here in Pennsylvania, so be ridiculous to go all the way back to Indiana. So that's it. Job thing is still a pain in the ass. I actually ran into a couple of older people. By older, I mean one guy had actually had 10 years more experience in IT than me. He was a service agent, and he was asking them about, how do you do your printer stuff in house? And there was another one who she had 15 years in IT, but she had just gotten out of education and she was trying to get back in. And she was wondering if it was even going to be worth it. And she said that she's been running into the same issues I run into. Whereas they say you're not qualified to work in IT, but when she tries to get a non-IT job, they tell her she's overqualified. Which is another way of saying you're old, we don't want to hire you. So, even though I actually had someone once tell me, I had a recruiter try to tell me that one night, and I told him he was full. I actually came around and told the recruiter he was full of shit. And I never heard from that recruiter again. So, yeah, I told the recruiter that I thought he was full of shit. That I've done stuff like I sent out 1,300 resumes. I only got 4 interviews. So that was back in the day when I was out of work for 3 years. So Social Security, pinning my hopes on that. We'll see what happens. But at least I'm not homeless. That would have sucked. Anyway, let me see. Writing. I've actually begun editing my novel. As I stated, I actually cut the novel into 6 different parts, and I've begun the process of editing the first part. So I'm going to go through and start doing those. The other thing I've been doing this week too, strangely enough, which doesn't have anything to do with editing, but it's just me and my weird way of doing shit. I've been on Google Earth, and it's a shame I can't really stream what I'm seeing on my screen. I wish I could, but there's got to be a way I can do it. I got to figure out if there's a way I can actually stream what's on my screen. Because one of the things I would love to do is I would love to actually do a video where I talk about, I wonder if there's a way I can do that. Probably, I'll check it later. I want to show how I use Google Earth to plot out things. One of the things I actually did this week was I have every location for the foundation, main headquarters, guardian centers, protector centers, marshal centers, hospitals, and schools, all laid out as to where they actually are in the world. Because it's one thing to have them in Trivanger and it says it's at such and such a place in Africa, or it's in such and such a place in Australia or New Zealand or South America, Argentina, Chile. But it's another to actually bring up Google Map and look at it. You can toggle it on and see all the little icons come up that tells you where everything is at. And that's one of the things I've been doing is saying, here's where the the foundation headquarters are in Paris, and here's where they are in Amsterdam, and here's where they are in Berlin, and here's where they are in London, and here's where they are all over the place. Like, it's been stated before, Guardian headquarter North America is in San Francisco. Do you know where? I do. I know where in San Francisco. Uh-huh. Yeah, I know exactly where it's located. And you don't, but I do. So I'm thinking of making a video and showing how I do that, which it's not really that difficult, but as a visual reference, it helps. Because you can just bring up the map and say, well, I've got a school in Germany. The school that Annie was going to go to. Where in Germany is it actually located? Well, now I know. Now I know exactly where it's located. Because all I got to do is go in there on Google Maps and click on the folder that says, show me all the schools. And all the schools light up around the world. And then I just spin over till I find Germany. Or I can even click on the ledger and say, take me there. and it spins the globe around and puts me there. So I think I'm going to do a video on that this week. I mean, if you have a computer, Google Earth is free to download to your computer. The only problem I have with it is it tends to disconnect from the internet for some reason. I'll be working in it, and all of a sudden, everything, you like to go to zoom in on an area, and it's all fuzzy because it can't pull in the map. It can't update the images properly. It gets to be a pain in the ass sometimes, but it's a lot of fun. And one of the other things I want to do this weekend is I actually want to lay out the school in Google Maps. It's one thing I have it laid out in Blender, but it's another thing if you actually see it on Cape Ann and you get the idea of where everything is located, how much smoke and mirrors is actually going on when we say you actually have regular houses like 30 meters beyond the walls. Is that true? Yeah, it is. It actually is. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to bring up Blender, and I'm going to bring up Google Maps, and you can line trace everything, and I'm going to lay it out. It's going to take some time to figure out how long everything should be, but I can do that. So I'm going to lay it all out and then do my best to move it all as one. And then set up actually the pentagram in the different buildings and say, here's where everything's at. So we'll see how that works. It might not work real well, but I'm going to give it a shot. So it's going to take some time. But yeah, I'm going to continue editing on those novels. And now that I've got like a couple of month reprieve, I also got to file my taxes this week. Since I don't really have a lot, I think I'm just going to try to get like a 1040 EZ and fill it in and hope for the best. I have a feeling I'm going to owe money, but I'm just going to be like, well, I got no money to pay for this shit right now, so send me a bill. Yeah, I don't have a choice. We'll see what happens. But yeah, writing's a lot of fun. It's getting to be more fun. I actually had a person last night. She read one of my mermaid stories. She actually has both of them, and she read one of the mermaid stories and really loved it. She's got a mermaid thing going on too. So she really loved it, and she asked me, she says, how would you see me as a mermaid? Because I told her for next Mermay, I would like to write a story with her in it. She would actually be the main character. And I told her how I saw her as a mermaid. She was like, oh my God. And I actually told her kind of like the concept of what the story would be, because I already figured it out. I'm a shit. I already figured it out. I actually considered doing Camp Nano for April, and then I remember I'm going to be busting my ass with Derby in April. There's no way in hell I can do any writing. May's going to be a lot easier, so we'll see. Speaking of Derby, I got over my injury, kinda. We'll get into that in a bit. Got over my injury, went to practice Monday and Wednesday night. I was at practice on Sunday too, but Monday and Wednesday night did practice. Felt better. Was I there? I can't even remember if I was there. Yeah, I was there Sunday. I have to check my exercise log. But yeah, I was there Sunday. And we worked on blocker shit. But mostly it was everybody was getting ready for the Reading game, which is on the 7th of April. I am on the roster as an alternate. I am not on the bench. So I will be at the game, though, however. I asked for, be put on a comp list, and I will actually be at the game cheering everybody on and maybe even working the merch table. I don't know, but I will be there. I got to find out if we're actually allowed to wear our jerseys when we go away like that. If we're working a merch table, do we wear our jerseys? Have to find out. But yeah, I'll be cheering on my team. Monday and Wednesday nights, let's just say it wasn't the best practice I've ever had in my life. It was really off for me. And Wednesday night, I was like messing up a lot of shit. So was I Monday night. Monday night was kind of interesting in that I caught an elbow in the ear from a jammer as she was running by. I happened to be going down, and she whacked me in the side of the head as she was going by. I was like, ow. And then another time I was running up to chase the jammer to try to block her off, and she got me in the cheek, this cheek, as a matter of fact, with her elbow pad, because she was like, running like this. And I caught a full blast, like right here in the cheek. Man, did that hurt. I was like, afterwards, I was like, holy God, that hurt. It was sore for most of even the next day. It was still kind of sore. So I was like, oh man, you get whacked by stuff like that, and it puts it in perspective. It's a contact sport, so you're used to it. But Wednesday night we had a scrimmage, and I was really not on my game. I was way, way off in terms of getting stuff done. And in fact, there was one point where I was playing one position and I just screwed stuff up so bad. I mean, seriously, I was just like, halftime I was in a fog. Like, I really didn't know what the hell was going on half the time. And I even said that at one point. I was like, it's just like, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I felt something pop in my down around my left groin when I was chasing after one of the jammers. I pushed off real hard, and I felt like this pop. So I don't know if that was like a tight tendon or ligament that just, finally stretched out and let go. But it was sore down there for a couple of days. So when I went in, I went Thursday night for practice and I'll explain this in a bit, I won't be at practice tomorrow night or tomorrow afternoon for a reason. But I went into practice on Thursday and I said, I'm off skates. I had actually debated gearing up to do practice, and then I thought, this is bothering me still now, an hour before practice. If you get on skates, you're going to fuck it up even more than it is now. So, don't do that. So I went off skates. I was at practice, but I was off skates. So, on the way home Wednesday night, I kind of beat myself up, which you're not supposed to do. One of our axioms, one of the things we agreed to as a member of a travel team is that if you have a bad practice, you leave it on the track. Anything that happens, you leave it on the track. That's it. Good practice, leave it on the track. Bad practice, leave it on the track. A lot of mistakes, leave it on the track. Learn from it. Like like it was pointed out, if you make a mistake, learn from it, resolve not to do it again, and move on. And that's why we say, just leave it on the track. Don't beat yourself up over this shit. And I did. I kind of beat myself up. I knew I shouldn't, and I still did. And again, it was pointed out, you're going to have off nights. You're going to do stuff that's bad. And there was even a point, though, however, I had to go back and think about it. after I did this one thing that was really screwy. I mean, it was screwed up. If I'd done it in a game, oh my God. That's why we have scrimmages. But if I'd done it in a game, it really would have been bad. And the very next time we had split sides and I was over with another group and I was asked, what position do you want to play? And I said, let me play this same position I just played because I want the opportunity to kind of redeem myself and not fuck it up like I did the last time. And one of the players, she looked at me and she gave me kind of like that little smile. And she goes, yeah, no fucking up allowed this time. And I didn't fuck it up. That was the thing. I didn't fuck it up. So I remembered, what I was supposed to do. And the other thing I messed up badly, it's because I've never really done it. So I think it's the situation I'm going to get into is if we're doing certain types of drills, I'm going to ask more and more to actually do the thing I didn't do well, to actually do it in drills so I can get used to being in that position in case I am the person in that position. That's how you learn. But I will not be on the bench for Reading, but the very next Saturday, we have a bout on Sunday in Reading away, and then 6 days later, we have a doubleheader at home against Sudbury and Keystone. And the Blitz is going to be playing Keystone. They're damn good. They're good. That's actually going to be a pretty tough bout, I think. And I'm on the bench for that one. Yeah, the roster's already out. And so I'm on the bench for that one. So I will be getting filtered in 8-10 jams, who knows, but I will get a chance to get some track time. So, and then 2 weeks after that is the bout with that other league I used to be with. And I will probably learn within the next couple of weeks whether I'm on the bench for that. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I really am. And everybody knows. I've even said it so many times. I really want to be on the bench for that. I want to be able to play in that bout. And everybody knows it. So, and that's like 2 weeks later. And then we have another bout 6 days after that. So, it's like we have 4 bouts in 5 weeks. It's really April and the beginning of May is really pretty grueling for us. So, yeah, it's tough. But we'll do it. That's why we train, we practice. And my endurance is up. It's better. But like I said, I did feel like something pulled down there, and it's still kind of sore. I don't know what it is. I think after travel team season is over, I'm going to have it looked at. If by the time, the May bout rolls around and it hasn't gotten any better, I may actually just say, hey, don't put me on the roster for the June bout. I'm going to have this checked out. In case it's like worst case scenario, I'm thinking, I hope it's not like something really bad where I'm going to have to take like 2 months off and not do anything. It gets better. And then every once in a while, it just gives. And all of a sudden, it's painful. So, yeah, what can I say? But yeah, I'm going to play against Keystone. And I'm hoping to play against Hard. And that's going to be an emotional game if I do. It's going to be an emotional game if I don't. Either way, there's going to be a lot of emotions involved there. So, I think the only thing I can say is the main reason I want to play hard is it's just I have to kind of prove to myself that some of the things that were said by a couple of people I know, just about me, just aren't true. And you know, I learned from the experience. I'm not out. This isn't like a revenge thing, revenge of the Derby player. No, it's just I want to be able to play against them, just to prove to myself that I can, and maybe to show, look, I'm not as bad as some people thought I was. Of course, it could backfire. I could completely fuck up, and then they'll be like, "Yeah, see, we were right." There's always that risk. So, but yes, I am hoping that I will be allowed to be on the bench for that, even if I only get into like 8 jams. I'll still get a chance to play, and it'll be some emotional shit. It will be, but I'll play them like I would any other team. I'll, like we say, you play your game. You play the game your team has worked towards. You don't play the other team's game. So it's not about revenge. It's about proving to myself I can. Proving to myself that, when I left, there was a lot of mental and emotional baggage I took with me. And I need to finally set that down. Get it out of the way. And I think playing against them would be cathartic. I think it would be. So, but that's not up to me. I'll know in a couple of weeks if I'll know in a couple of weeks if I'm on the roster or not. So if I am. If I'm not, I'll be there to support my team. One way or the other, I'm going to be there. Yeah. Just like a Reading, one way or the other, I'm going to be there. And like I said, I will actually have my gear in my car. I will probably swap out my 95s for my 84 Poisons. I already asked what the floor is like at Reading, and they said it's polished concrete, but it's, got to be careful with it. And I said, sounds like I'm going to need to put on some stickier wheels. So I said, I think after the Wednesday practice, I'm actually going to put my Poisons on so that just in case the call goes up and they're like, hey, Nomi, guess what? As an alternate, we're activating you. And it's like, okay, I'm ready to go. So yeah, when I go to a Reading to watch a game, I'm actually going to have my gear in the car just in case, because I want to be ready. Like I said, I take being an alternate seriously, and that's really what we do. We're there to learn. I am learning. It is a learning experience, but at the same time, it's there to help out the team. Somebody needs a break, you step in, you take their position. And that's one of the things. As an alternate, I kind of have to learn every position. I do. I kind of have to learn every position. So, Pack 2, baby, that's me. Pack 2. I'm Pack 2, so there you go. Derby. It's going to be fun. But April, we already know April is going to be a tough month for us. There's a lot of bouts, a lot of scrimmages, a lot of hard practice. April's going to be a tough month. So, and we will do what we always do, which is just, work our butts off. We go in, We give 100%. And then we're done. Go home. Leave the world at the door. Leave it on the track when you're done. Go home. Don't beat yourself up, but make sure you give yourself 100% when you're on the track, either for practice or for the bout. You leave it all on the track. So that's what we'll do. So I was saying, I won't be at practice on Sunday tomorrow. I was actually invited out for. I was actually invited by a person I met like a year ago. Actually, I think longer than that, about a year and a half ago. Who is part of a kind of a liberal church out around Carlisle. And they asked if I would actually come out, and they're having like a sit down with people who are of the LGBT AIQ persuasion to talk to a group of teenagers about, issues that face LGBT people. And I was told they haven't really ever had a transgender person come out and talk. And I was like, yeah, cool. I'm more than willing to come out because, as everybody knows, I'm pretty open about my life. I'm pretty open about the stuff that I've went through. And I was told, we have a transgender woman who is a member of our congregation, but she doesn't feel comfortable talking about the experience to others. And I was like, yeah. Like I'm doing now, you just get on the video, turn on the video, and start chatting. So I sent off some answers. They had like 4 boilerplate questions, but I made certain that they knew I'm not afraid to answer any questions. Anything you want to shoot my way, I'll talk. I'm also going to take my derby gear out with me in case anyone wants to know about roller derby. But yeah, I'm going to go out and talk as a trans lesbian, what it's like to be transgender. Which I said is a little bit like trying to tell someone who's never had sex what sex is like. That was an expression I actually heard from someone once, is like trying to explain this is like trying to explain sex to a virgin. You just don't, you don't know. And it is kind of true. If you've never been transgender, if you've never had those same feelings that I have had in the past, it's kind of hard to explain what it's like to be transgender. You can try to explain stuff to straight cis people or even gay cis people, because most cis people, they're still kind of mystified about the whole thing we go through. So I'm going to talk to these kids, and I pointed out that March 31st is International Transgender Day of Visibility. That's the day that if you are trans, in or out of the closet, you should put yourself out there and make sure people see you. And it's really kind of like if you've been in the closet for a long time as a transgender person, today's the day. Get dressed up. And by dressed up, I mean, throw on a pair of jeans, throw on a pair of leggings if you want. Slip on your comfortable flats, go out shopping, go out window shopping, go to the mall, go to the outlet stores in Hershey and in Lancaster. But get out there, let people see you. And I've been pretty good about Transgender Day of Remembrance, a completely different thing, visibility. Mainly because today, March 30th, is an anniversary of sorts for me. And I actually forgot about it until I checked my Facebook memories. I actually forgot about it. That's how much shit has been going on in my life. Is that stuff like that? I forget. I forget all about this stuff. Uh, Today was the day in 2014 where I first really went out in public. And by that, I mean I went to a public place in broad daylight, a public place where people knew the other me. And I went out as myself, as Cassidy. And that really was the start. That was actually the real start of my transition. That was 5 years ago today. I know it seems like I've actually been doing this longer, but yeah, it's just been 5 years. And it was part time. I used to do it only on the weekends. And then at first, like through April and up until May, there were even certain places where I wouldn't go as Cassidy. I would go as that other person. And then I would come home and I would like swap all my shit out. If I was going to go somewhere as Cassidy, it would be like, okay, I take everything out of my wallet and put it in my other wallet, which I put in my purse, and I change my clothes and I get the wig on and everything else. And it was like that through most of April. And it was finally like right around after my birthday. I came home from somewhere and I was going out and I finally just go, fuck it. Why am I changing back to go to this place? Because that's what it was. I'd went out as Cassidy and I came back and I had to go someplace else. And I was changing back into my other demeanor and I was like, why am I doing this? Yeah. It's like, it was actually in April because it was before I applied for HRT. So yeah, it was like, why am I doing this shit? If you're gonna be Cassidy, be Cassidy. Stop. So that was the point where when I would come home from work on a Friday night, I immediately went into girl mode. And I stayed that way the whole weekend until Monday morning before I went to work, and then I faked it. And it finally got to the point I applied to get in for HRT treatment. I applied for that at the end of April and got accepted and started on HRT on July 7, 2014. So 3 months later, I was shooting up. I was doing drugs, man. So yeah, that's been 5 years. My own little transgender day of visibility. And I'm planning on going out later today. I'm not going to sit in the apartment all day. I plan on going out later today, and I'll get a picture of myself outside, and I'll post it with the infamous, really bad picture of myself my first day out, which I took to prove that I actually went out. And oh my God, it was just, I remember that was so nerve-wracking, especially when the place I went to was Panera over in Camp Hill. So everybody there knew me. So when I came in wearing like women's clothes and actually it was a women's t-shirt, women's jeans, which I had actually been wearing, flats. I think I was actually wearing sneakers and my wig. And they just kind of looked at me. And I also changed the name of my Panera card from my old name to Cassidy. And they were like, fortunately, nobody ever said anything to me. It was pretty cool. I like that. And that came from the night before on the 29th, which was a Saturday back then. I had driven back from Indiana. I had to go to Indiana for, I think it was taxes and to get plates for my car. That's exactly what it was. I went back for taxes. I had my car emission tested so I could get plates. So I spent a week in Indiana, and that was really like one of the last times I went back and spent that much time there. Last time was around the time of my daughter's birthday, a couple of years ago, and that was the last time I was in Indiana. But anyway, driving back in some of the worst weather conditions, I left Indiana. I left Valparaiso, and it was drizzling. And then by the time I got to the Ohio border, because I'm taking the toll road all the way back, my route would always be where I lived in Valparaiso, I was only like 10 to 15 minutes south of the Indiana toll road. So I'd get up on the toll road and then take the toll road all the way back. It was Indiana toll road to Ohio toll road to the Pennsylvania Turnpike all the way into Harrisburg. I'd get off at I-83 and take that the rest of the way into Harrisburg. Actually, I thought we'd get off at 15 and take that, but I digress. It was drizzling when I left Valparaiso. By the time I got to the Ohio border, it was raining pretty good. About halfway into Ohio, the rain turned to snow, and it started coming down first as flurries. And then by the time I got close to Cleveland, I was probably about 30 minutes out from Cleveland. It was snowing hard enough that we were actually down to one clear lane on the Ohio Turnpike going into Cleveland. I mean, it really, and you don't actually go into Cleveland, you go south of Cleveland. But it was horrible. I mean, the road conditions were like total crap. So I was really debating what to do. And I finally got to the point I said, okay, I know things tend to change when I get to the Cuyahoga River, because the Cuyahoga River actually goes through kind of a big valley in that part of Wisconsin. And I thought maybe because of the directions the wind was blowing from, I was getting lake effect snow. So I said, I'm going to take this as far as the Cuyahoga River. Once I get past the Cuyahoga River Valley, if I'm on the other side and it's still snowing like hell, I'm going to find a hotel. And I'll just finish up this trip, either much later tonight or I'll do it first thing in the morning tomorrow. Because, it was a Saturday. I didn't have to be to work until Monday. And if I stayed overnight somewhere in Ohio, it would have only taken me at that point, about 5 hours to get home. So, and like clockwork, it turned to, it was sleeting. So the road started getting wet and slushy. And by the time we were like another 10 miles beyond that, it had turned completely to rain. So I said, okay, I'm just going to take this all the way back into Pennsylvania. But I was the same way. It's like if anywhere along the Pennsylvania Turnpike, it starts snowing like hell, I'm just going to find an off and spend the night. I'll just get off at one of the exits and spend the night. Well, I stopped at Glacier Hills, which is the last toll plaza in Ohio before getting back into Pennsylvania. And it was raining. It was raining pretty hard at that point. And it actually rained all the way across Pennsylvania to Harrisburg. I can remember pulling into Harrisburg, and it was still raining like hell. But two things that happened on that trip, because it seemed like there was nobody on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. I think a lot of people pulled off because it was raining so hard. So there were like huge swashes of the Pennsylvania Turnpike where there was absolutely nobody on the road. So you're kind of like, a little lost in your thoughts. And the first time it happened to me, it was one of the first thoughts I had as I was crossing the 83 Bridge into over the Susquehanna into Harrisburg. I said, wow, I'm finally home. And that was the first time I ever thought of Harrisburg as being home. Really it was. It was just like, I'm home. I'm finally home. At that point, I had disconnected myself from Indiana. And I said, I'm finally home. But the other thing that happened was I started thinking about transitioning, because as I was coming back as myself, which was something I did back then. When I would travel as Cassidy. But I'm having this conversation with myself. And it's like, you're good enough to drive as Cassidy, but you're not good enough to live as Cassidy. And I remember actually just saying, you have to decide what you want to do with this transition. I'd been going to a transgender support group at that point. And I had privately thought about transitioning full time, but I hadn't yet done it. And part of it was I hadn't taken that step to actually go out in public. So as I was driving down the Pennsylvania Turnpike all by my lonesome, I was like, you got to decide what you want to do. If you're going to do this, do it. If you're not, then don't. But quit trying to exist in this netherworld. Either accept that you're not going to do it and move on, or accept that you are going to do it and move on. And it was one of the things that had happened, because you have to remember at that point, I was doing therapy with my therapist in Indianapolis, only like once every 2 or 3 months. And she had actually brought up the point the last time, because I had actually met her in person when I was back in Indiana at that time. And she was like, where are you going with your transition? I said, well, I'm still planning on doing this, but I haven't gotten to that point yet. And one of the things she said to me during that session was that she knew that eventually I was going to decide on what to do, because she said of all the patients she had ever had, I was probably the most methodically clinical patient she had ever had. She said, you are the most methodical patient in like 30 years that I've been doing this, because you always investigate and look into everything leading up to a certain point. She said, you would make a goal for yourself, and you would do all this investigation and all this checking out, and you would work up to that goal, and then you'd hit it, and then you'd move on to the next goal, and you'd hit it, and you'd move on to the next goal. She goes, you're so clinically methodical about your transition. And she said, I've never had a person like that before. And I said, I think a lot of that was due to the fact that I was in IT, and that's how we kind of do stuff. You set goals and you move on. So she found it kind of surprising, but she said, you'll end up doing what you want to do. She also made the comment during that meeting. She said, while you might have issues with depression, none of those issues are brought on by your transition. She was like, there's nothing wrong with the way you're transitioning. So you will decide what you want to do. And that was the argument I had with myself on the way home that night. What are you going to do with this? What are you going to do? Are you going to proceed with the transition, or are you going to stop the transition? And I said, if you're going to proceed with the transition, you need to start putting yourself out there. And I did not know that the 31st was Transgender Day of Visibility. But I put myself out there on this day 5 years ago in 2014. And been putting myself out there ever since. Started going pretty much full time, except at work. Started on hormones. By the end of 2014, I was like, boobs. I had boobs. I wasn't getting boobs, I had boobs. And other changes were starting to become pretty pronounced. And that was when I said, actually, I said it to myself in November of 2014. I need to tell these guys I'm going to transition. And then, of course, through December, I wussed out. But it was in January. Went to one of my support groups, and Pennsylvania State Representative Brian Sims, who's from Philadelphia, openly gay representative within the state. He gave a talk, and I managed to snag him for like a couple of minutes. And one of the things that he had said was, you have to be true to yourself. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. You have to be true to yourself. If this is what you want to do it. And that was it. That Saturday night I went home, and it's like Monday or Tuesday, I'm going to have to tell them at work that this is what I'm going to do. And that following Tuesday was the day I actually went into my boss's office and I said, we got to talk. And actually, I think he figured I was going to quit because he got this worried look on his face when I closed the door. And then that's when I told him. I says, beginning of February, I'm going to start coming in here, transitioning. I'm going to transition on the job. I've been transitioning now for a few months, and it's time because I'm starting to undergo some physical transformations that I can't hide any longer. So I said, I'm going to start coming in as my other self, as my real self. And that started that process. And went from there. Here I am today. So tomorrow, Transgender Day of Visibility International, all around. If you're within the sound of this video voice and you are transgender, whether you are in or out of the closet, make certain people know you're there. Make certain people see you. Because it's important, especially nowadays with the administration in place that's doing everything they can to kind of like eliminate us from the public eye. We need to let people know we're really there. And I think that's, in a way, I'm kind of sad that I'm not going to be with my team tomorrow. I think it's important, however, that I am with a group of people where I actually get an opportunity to kind of educate. I love education. I think education is important. So the more people know about transgender identities, the easier it is for us. At least that's the hope. So as much as I'm going to miss not being with my team tomorrow, I'll be doing some good work tomorrow. Even if it's only for a little while. I'm only going to be talking to these kids for about an hour, but it'll be an hour well spent. And who knows, we're going to have like coffee and cake afterwards, and maybe I'll gear up and show them how to play derby. Here's how you play derby, kids. Who's ready for it? The old woman's going to show you. Okay, so this is the last broadcast in March. There will be another one in April. April the 6th. Yeah. Is it April the 6th? Yeah, it's April the 6th. And April the 6th will be an important date. No, it's April the 12th, actually, is an important date. It's not April the 6th, but April the 12th is an important date. I was losing my mind there for a moment. But yeah, first broadcast in April. hers next Saturday, but I may, like I said, I may actually do a video ahead of time and post it up and show you some stuff. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, have a good rest of the day, rest of the weekend. And I will be here for sure. I will be here next week. Yeah. So take care. Bye.